let me just say one more thing about this, and then we move on. With both a dichotomist and the trichotomist, there's also another danger, and that is that we look at some work as being spiritual, and we look at other work as being not very spiritual. Do you understand what I mean? Yes. The pastor is spiritual work, but the matatu driver is not spiritual work. And I want to say, do not denigrate, do not look down on, do not count as not very valuable a godly life doing whatever God calls you to do, yeah? If you are a matatu driver, do it to the glory of God, yeah? Drive like a saint, not like a demon, yeah? Be polite, be friendly, do not be corrupt, yeah? If you're a teacher, be a teacher to the glory of God. Be a carpenter to the glory of God. Because I think Jesus managed to do that, didn't he? If God can be a carpenter, then a Christian can be a carpenter and serve the Lord in that way. If you're a doctor, be a doctor to the glory of God. Pastor, glory of God, yeah? But don't sort of say, oh, I'm just this. My work is not spiritual work. You are a saint, you're a child of God. You've got to be different. Whatever you are doing, do it to the glory of God. Do it as Jesus would do it. If Jesus was a carpenter, what sort of carpenter would he be? If Jesus had been a matatu driver, what sort of matatu driver would he be? Yeah? So yes, the Lord calls some of us to full-time work within the church, to be a pastor. The Lord calls some of us to be scientists and teachers. Adam was a farmer, wasn't he? Adam was a farmer, a scientist. He had to look at the animals, name the animals, classify the animals. He had to work out what would grow best here and what this crop could be used for. He was a farmer. He was a scientist, yeah? So whatever you are, you must do it to the glory of God. Yeah. Sorry, we can't answer all the questions. We have to move on. This course is humanity and sin. We've looked at humanity, so now we're going to look at sin for the next few weeks. For 2 minutes, think of a definition of sin. How would you define sin? You can write it down in your notebook. You can talk to your neighbor. 2 minutes just to define sin, and then I'll call on some of you to tell me what you have written down or what you have in your head. Okay, 30 more seconds, 30 seconds to get down. Definition of sin. Definition of sin. Can you pass that to Francis? Francis. Okay, thank you. Francis, what did you have for definition of sin?
Anything against the will of God.
Okay, let's give it to anybody near you. Yeah, go on.
Everything you do think or say that does not please God.
Okay, two or three more others.
A life removed, cut off, negating, excluding from God.
Hang on, he's not finished yet. No, I didn't hear the end. I got to excluding.
A life that is removed, cut off from,
Yeah.
negating,
Yes.
and excluding God.
Ah, okay, good. Next one, let's have one. Two more. Yeah, what do you have, sir?
Sin is any disobedience. Is any disobedience against the God.
Okay, behind you, one of the men behind you.
Anything done without faith.
Ah, okay. We'll come back to that in a minute. There's the Bible uses many different words for sin, yeah? Judges 20 verse 16. Judges 20 verse 16. Somebody near the mic, read it please. Judges 20 verse 16. Hatat. This is a Hebrew word, hatat.
Judges 20 verse 16 says, So I took hold of my concubine so that she died.
No.
Judges verse 16. Okay, here you go. among all
concubine from. What are you in? Which book are you in?
Ayah 16 says, among all these people were 700 select men who were left-handed. Everyone could sling a stone at a hair's breadth and not miss.
Why have we just read that? We're talking about sin. Yeah, hatat, the Hebrew word hatat is translated there to not miss. So hatat is missing the mark. Yeah, missing the mark. Hatat. You get another word, pesha. Pesha. Look at 1 Kings 12:19. 1 Kings 12:19, please, somebody. Preferably without a concubine anywhere inside, yeah? 1 Corinthians 12:19, yeah. 1 Kings 12:19, I think.
So Israel has been in rebellion against the house of David.
Good. What word there is the word sin? Rebellion, yeah? So hatat is missing the mark. This one, pesha, is rebellion. Another popular word in the Hebrew, of course, this is Hebrew. Another popular word in the Hebrew is awon, which is perversion. Perversion, I put some references in the notes. Perversion or twisting. That can be translated twisting, spoiling, iniquity. In the Greek, again, I'm giving you 3 words, but there's many words in the Bible that are used for looking at sin from one perspective or another. Greek hamartia or hamartia, falling short or wrong direction. Hamartia, but I say it's in your notes in the book. Falling short. Romans 1:18. The wrath of God is being revealed against what? All the godlessness and wickedness of men. So we've had hamartia, we have Asebia. Ungodliness or unrighteousness, yeah? Then anomia, you can guess the meaning of anomia. Anomia, what's that? No laws. Is without, nomos is law, so without law, lawlessness. For example, Matthew 7:23, we have that word, Matthew 7:23. Then I will tell them plainly, I never knew you, away from me, you lawless ones. The NIV has evildoers, but lawlessness. So missing the mark, rebellion, perversion, falling short, ungodliness, lawlessness. All these words imply something that is good and true and right. A mark is missed, a boundary crossed, something good is spoilt, a demand is not met, yeah? What is it that is right and good and true? The answer is it's the law of God. Sin is missing God's mark. Sin is crossing the boundary that God has set. Sin is spoiling something that God has set up. Sin is failing to meet a demand that God has made. And so the most fundamental and important thing about the character of sin is this: it is against God, yeah? Most of you picked that up in the definition, yeah? Sin is in reference to God. Apart from the last one, which I think was without faith, doing something without faith. But you could argue that is faith in God. David and Bathsheba, what did David say after he'd committed adultery with Bathsheba? Wow. Against you, Lord, you only have I sinned, yeah? Yes, he had wronged Bathsheba, he had wronged her husband, but ultimately, fundamentally, his sin was against God, yeah? Thinking about sin must be God-centered. Must be God-centered. Sin has to be seen in relationship to God. What is so bad about drunkenness and stealing and sexual immorality? What's wrong with all those things? Sexual immorality, what's wrong with that? Well, it does not satisfy a person. It leads to psychological problems. It spreads disease. It breaks up families. All those are terribly true, but the main thing is that sexual immorality, like all sin, is shaking our fist at God. It is saying, go away. It's saying, no, I will not go the way you want me to. I will not bow the knee to you and your law. It is rebellion against this God, who is the very one who gives us the strength so that we can rebel. He's the one who made us. He sustains us. And when we are rebelling against God by sinning, then we're using what he has given us to turn back and rebel against him. No one said, did anyone have this for a definition of sin? Sin is any failure to conform to the law of God in sin is any failure to conform to the law of God in thought, word, or deed, yeah? You're not familiar with that one? Yeah. You are? But you didn't want to join in and help me finish it, huh? Sin is any failure to conform to the law of God in thought, word, or deed. Sins both of omission and commission. Omission. What are sins of omission? Leaving out what ought to be done. Omission, we omit to do the things that we should do. Commission is when we commit the things we should not do. So stealing, if I steal your phone, what sort is that? Commission. Stealing from you, sin of commission. But not giving to you when you are starving is the sin of omission. I am omitting to do what I should do. And to be honest, most of us are far more concerned about sins of commission. We try to make sure we do not do anything that is forbidden, but we do not concern ourselves or realize so much the importance and sinfulness of our sins of omission. Yeah? I try very hard not to shout at you. Yeah? But how much do I try to actually encourage you? Yeah? Tell me about the origin of sin. The origin of sin. Yeah, Chris. Yep. Okay. Yep, we're not told too much in the Bible about how sin entered God's good creation. We know how it entered the human race, but we're not told too much about how it entered God's very good creation. But what we are told seems to hint at some sort of angelic rebellion, some glorious angel who rebelled against God. Why would he do that? Well, we don't know. We're not told. It's not our concern. Look at Isaiah 14. Isaiah 14, please. Could you, someone who's going to read, where's the mic, please? Where's the mic? Who wants to read? Isaiah 14, 11 to 14. No, Isaiah 14, 12 to 14. Isaiah 14, 12 to 14, please. Yeah.
14, 12 to 13.
12 to 14.
How you have fallen from heaven, morning star, son of dawn. You are cut down to the ground, conqueror of the nations. And you yourself said in your heart, I will ascend to heaven. I will rise up my throne above the stars of God, and I will sit on the mountain of assembly on the summit of Zaphon. I will ascend to the high places of the clouds. I will make myself like the Most High.
Who's that about? Lucifer. Why is that not an adequate and complete answer? Who's it about? Yeah.
I'm trying to look at it when you say that fallen from heaven. So definitely, I think that it is the devil because it's the one that had fallen from heaven.
But who does the Bible say it's about? Where do you get that strange idea from?
Chapter 14, verse 4.
Good. Good. Isaiah 14, verses 3 and 4. On the day the Lord gives you relief from suffering and turmoil and cruel bondage. So God is saying to his people, the time will come when you will get relief from your suffering. You will take up this taunt, this mocking song against the king of Babylon. So it's about the king of Babylon. Look at Ezekiel 28. Ezekiel 28, please. And Ezekiel 28 and the second half of verse 12. Ezekiel 28, second half of verse 12. You were the model of perfection, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. You were in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone adorned you. Ruby, topaz, emerald, chrysolite, onyx, jasper, sapphire, turquoise, and beryl. Your settings and mountains were made of gold. On the day you were created, they were prepared. You were anointed as a guardian cherub, etc., etc. Who's that about? Yeah, it's the king of Tyre. How do we know that? Because verse 12 says, this is the lament you are to take up against the king of Tyre. So what are we going to say? I think we look at it like this. Some of the Psalms are initially written about the earthly physical king of that day, yeah? but the language is so extravagant, so over the top, that we know it's actually really pointing to who? To Jesus, yeah? So you have a hymn written for the king on his wedding day. Your throne, O God, will last forever. Really, the king? Well, it's talking about the king, but it's using language that actually points us to the greater king, the true Davidic king, the divine Davidic king. And I think that is what is happening here in Isaiah and Ezekiel. It's about the king of Babylon. It's about the king of Tyre, but it is using language that is reflecting a much greater fall. The fall of the angel, the glorious angel who rebelled against God and became Satan. Does that make sense? Those two passages in Isaiah and Ezekiel, they are specifically about Tyre, the king of Tyre, but we are mocking the king of Tyre, how great he was and how wonderful and how he's fallen. We're using language that really is fit to describe a greater cosmic rebellion. More than just one king being brought low. It's about something bigger and greater. That is my suspicion anyway, that these passages are initially about Babylon and Tyre, but in fact they reflect the initial rebellion and the fall of the splendid angel against God. Why did the angel? We don't know. Pride had something to do with it. But our concern is how sin entered into human affairs. How sin entered into human affairs. And for that, of course, we have to go to Genesis chapter 3. Yeah. Yeah.
Jesus, when he was talking to Peter, he referred to him, Satan, go behind.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to look at these passages. Maybe the author was directly referring to Lucifer, though was pointing to these individuals.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's saying, we are told he's mock the king of Babylon or the king of Tyre like this. So we're going to sing about the king of Babylon. And if you want to say what he has done has, in a way, reenacted, relived what happened to Lucifer. Yeah, I think I'm agreeing with you. Yeah. Genesis 3, 1-7. Somebody read. Who's got microphone? Genesis 3, 1-7.
Genesis.
Yeah, good. You've got the mic, yeah.
Genesis chapter 3, verse 1-7. Now, the serpent was more crafty than any of the wild animals. Lord God and man, he said to the woman, did God really say you must not eat from any tree in the garden? Then woman said to the serpent, we may eat fruit from the trees in the garden, but God said, you must not eat fruit from the tree that is in the middle of the garden, and you must not touch it or you will die. You will not surely die, the serpent said to the woman, for God knows that when you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. When the woman saw that the fruit of the tree was good for food and pleasing to the eyes, and also desirable for gaining wisdom, she took some and ate it. She also gave some to her husband, who was with her, and he ate it. Verse 7. Then the eyes of the both of them were opened, and they realized they were naked. So they sewed fig leaves together and made covering for themselves.
Good. Again, I don't understand why that's funny, but good. They sewed fig leaves together and made coverings for themselves. Yes. That's what was fashionable in those days, fig leaves and things like that. Tell me then the characteristics of sin. Some of the characteristics of sin. What is sin like? Jesse, yeah. It's It's deceptive. Why is it deceptive?
Because obviously the truths that God gave to Eve,
Yeah.
they were now twisted. They were now changed. And he says, is this really what God said?
Okay, so sin is being deceived there.
He's deceiving.
Yeah, next one. Yeah.
I'd say it corrupts what is good.
Sin corrupts what is good.
Yeah.
How do we see that? So you're saying sin then is corruption.
Mm-hmm.
We've said sin is being deceived, sin is corruption. How do you see that?
I'm looking at the story of Adam and Eve.
Yeah.
When they ate that fruit, I'd say that is when corruption entered the world. So I
Okay.
don't know.
Yeah. I'm not quite sure why you're calling it corruption, but yeah, somebody else. Yeah, Irene. Yeah. Winnie.
Sin is disobedient.
Sin of disobedience. Yeah, we see that clearly, don't we? Explain it to me, though. Sin is disobedience. Because what?
They were told not to eat that fruit in the middle, but
Yeah, they were
went
simply
on.
given a command: do not eat from that tree, and they said, "I'm eating from that tree." Yeah. Someone else then. Yeah, Lynn. And then go back. Yep.
Sin is seductive.
Sin is seductive. Okay, that's interesting. How do we see that?
In verse 6, we see that when she saw the tree, it was good for food and it was a delight to the eyes.
Yep. Good. Yep. Sin is seductive. What were you going to say?
I did say enticing.
Enticing. Same thing. Yep. Anyone else? Yep. Go on. Sin is what else?
Hides.
Sin hides. Yeah,
So
okay,
when
so
they-
sin leads you to hiding, but the sin is not hiding, the sin was something else, wasn't it? Okay, Francine. Yep. Go, Francine.
Sin is selfish.
Selfish. Why do you say that?
Because the woman would like to praise himself.
Okay,
And herself and also to praise her.
good, okay. Yep, Irene.
I'm seeing sin being subtle here, because when Eve is asked, did God say you shall not eat?
Yep.
She responds, God said we shall not eat and we should not even touch it, even though
Okay.
God did not
That's
say about
interesting. She
eating.
kind of changes the.
Yeah.
Doesn't she? Yeah, good. Just shout out one or two more then. Don't wait for the microphone. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, Chris.
It also convinces.
It does what?
Convince.
Okay.
Yeah, it can
Okay.
be like, you see, it convinces the woman to take the fruit, and the woman says that it's very good.
Yeah.
It's convinced that the fruit, it's convinced that it will be much enlightened.
Okay.
To get the fruit.
Yeah, I still want to say that's deceptive, but okay. Right, last one. It's what? Misleading. Okay, or sin is being misled, is that what you mean? Okay, let me just tell you the things I wrote down. Sin is greed. One characteristic of sin is greed. How do we see this? There were so many trees in the garden, yeah? Probably hundreds and hundreds of trees bearing luscious, delicious fruit, and only one tree was forbidden. And Adam and Eve wanted just one more, yeah? Someone said that's a definition of a greedy man or woman, yeah? Just one more. The greedy person wants just one more car. He's already got 17, but he wants just one more, yeah? He wants one more house, one more woman, one more shilling, yeah? And it's interesting that Tim Keller, the late Tim Keller, he says in one of his sermons that as a pastor over many, many years, people have come to him and confessed all sorts of sin. Yeah, all sorts of drunkenness and going to prostitutes and sexual immorality and stealing. And the one sin that people have never come and confessed to him is what?
Greed.
Is greed. He said, no one, in all the people I have counseled, no one ever said, Pastor, my problem is I'm a greedy person. Why is that? Because we don't recognize greed.
But could it be under selfishness?
It could be what?
Under selfishness, the greed.
Selfishness.
Yes.
Yeah, but I'm greedy for more for me. Greed is meaning I want more.
You're selfish.
Yeah.
Yes.
But greed is just one form that selfishness takes. Yeah? Committing adultery is selfish. I want that woman, yeah? Drunkenness is selfish. I want to drink this and this and this. But the specific selfishness that shows itself in greed, Tim Keller said, no one has ever committed that. No one's ever admitted to that. How many of you have ever prayed, God, forgive me, I'm a greedy person. I'm a greedy person.
It's more related to food.
Huh?
When you think about it, it's more related to food.
Yeah.
When you think about it,
Okay. Okay. But I'm not satisfied. Because that is partly it is as well, isn't it? Dissatisfaction. Sin is dissatisfaction. How do we see that? Dissatisfaction with God's providences. God had given them all these things, but they're not satisfied. They just want a bit more, yeah? They want more. They're dissatisfied with what God has given them. Imagine what He'd given them. He'd given them the whole garden. He'd give them so much, but I'm not satisfied, God. Sin is doubting God's goodness. God knows that if you eat, you'll be like Him, you know. Just doubt that God is a truly good God. God is keeping something good from you. Yeah, Jesse.
Yeah, can we say that they're dissatisfied with God's law? They want something different.
If you like, we can certainly say it's disobedience to God's law, yeah.
They want to write their own law.
Sorry?
They want to write their own law.
Well, that's, yeah, good. And I've put that down, I've got that in my notes as the desire to be independent from God. How do we see that? God said what was right and wrong, but they wanted to eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. So they knew for themselves what was right and wrong. They did not want God to define what was right and wrong. They wanted to be independent from God. How do we see pride, selfish ambition? Pride, selfish ambition. Sin is pride, selfish ambition. I mean, these overlap a lot, don't they? Adam and Eve wanted to be what? Like God. If you eat this, you will be like God. They're ambitious. They thought they deserved better than simply being children of God, ruling on His behalf. They wanted to rule for themselves. They wanted to be like God. That sin reappears throughout the Bible. Where else does it reappear? We read the people wanted to be like gods. Tower of Babel. Let's build a tower. We'll reach up into heaven and then we will be like gods. If you can get into heaven, well, that's where the gods are. That's what we want to get up there for, yeah? Sin is questioning God's word. Is it really true? We doubt that. We do that, don't we? Is it really true that God said that? Did God really say, women, wives, submit to your husbands? Did He really say gay sex is wrong? And so on and so forth. Notice also how Adam and Eve refused to take responsibility for their actions. They refused, when questioned by God, they refused to take responsibility for their actions. Instead, they said it was somebody else's fault. How do we see that? Who does Adam blame? Adam, what have you done? Well, this woman here, you have given me. He's blaming the woman. He's also blaming God. Yeah? It's always good to blame the woman and God for your mistakes, isn't it? Who does Eve blame? The serpent. And who created the serpent? And today we do exactly the same. We refuse to take responsibility for our sin. What do people blame today? The devil made me do it, yeah? Good. What else? Who else do we blame? The what? The world, yeah. Yeah, everybody's doing it. I'm just copying other people. It's their fault. In the notes I put genes. People blame their genes, if you like. That's just the way I am. That's the way God made me. I can't help it. Some people blame their upbringing, my parents. It's their fault. It's the way I was brought up. Sometimes it's the environment, or as you said, the world. It's because I am poor that I steal. That's not actually true. Some of the biggest thieves are the richest people. Yeah? Yeah, some poor people steal, and I've got a bit of sympathy with that. If you're starving to death and you steal a loaf of bread by putting your hand in my window and taking it, well, you're a fool. You should just ask me. Yeah? But I've got some sympathy. I don't have sympathy with the people who are already incredibly rich, but because they are greedy, then they steal even more, yeah? When I worked in Nigeria, the college was out in the bush between two villages. We had a college generator, which was an interesting, noisy beast. It occasionally worked. And occasionally the college had money to run the generator, but we had a big generator, yeah? And one day the students woke up and the generator had disappeared. And there's always, you know, one or two dodgy students who say, oh, it must have been raptured thing, really. But unfortunately for the thieves, while they were stealing the generator, it began to rain. So what happened? They left their footprints. So the students followed the footprints to the village, and whose house did they come to? The chief's house. It was the son of the chief. The poorest guy in the village? No. Just the greediest, entitled guy in the village. Do you know anything about E-numbers? This is a wonderful story. E-numbers. E-numbers. If you buy certain things from the supermarket, there'll be a label of ingredients, yeah? And you get E126, you get E45, you get E27, yeah? Have any of you seen those at all? Okay. You buy something from a supermarket and look at the E numbers, yeah? Many years ago, there was a woman in America. All the best ridiculous stories come from America. And she was in McDonald's, yeah, the fast food chain McDonald's, yeah? Or rather, she'd been there. And after eating at McDonald's, she went home and murdered her husband. And whose fault was it? It was the E numbers. Because some of these E numbers, she claimed, make you very aggressive. And she'd eaten too much chicken or too much whatever. And so she was saying, my defense for killing my husband is that I'd eaten too much of this E numbers. And it's really McDonald's fault, not my fault. But we do it on a smaller scale, don't you? Huh? You refuse to take responsibility for your sin. How do we do that? How do you do that? How do you refuse to take responsibility for your sin? It's so hard simply to say, sorry, please forgive me. We say, sorry, please forgive me, but, and then we make the excuse. You lose your temper with someone. You say, sorry, please forgive me, but I had a terrible headache. Who am I blaming? The headache. It's not my fault. It's not my fault. It's someone else's fault. Something else's fault. You just try saying that. Just try saying to someone, please forgive me. Full stop. Don't put but afterwards. When you've had an argument with your parents or your children or your husband or your wife, just say, please forgive me. Don't say, but I was tired and I got an assignment to do and Just say, please forgive me. Maybe most of the argument was their fault anyway, but just ask for forgiveness for the part of the argument that was your fault. You understand what I'm saying? Yes. I may think it was 10% my fault and 90% your fault. But I don't say, please forgive me, but you were the main trouble. Just say, please forgive me. I should not have said that. And maybe the Lord will use that to stimulate the conscience of the other person, who will then have grace enough to say, yeah, and please forgive me. Just don't bother saying but, yeah? Please forgive me, but. There is some truth in saying sin is the fault of others, and I've told you this illustration before. Some of you have been in 5 classes with me, so you've probably heard it 5 times. But when I was in Nigeria, and my firstborn son is 2 years old, and do you remember what happened? What? Yeah, I'm looking down, it's in the cool of the evening, God walked with Adam, I was walking with my son, and he's walking like this, a little 2-year-old walking like this. And I'm looking and thinking, that's a really strange way to walk. Why is he walking like that? And that was one of those incredible moments, truly awesome and terrifying. This child is even learning how to walk from me. He learns how to talk from me. The only words at that stage that he heard were from me and his mum. Yeah? This little boy was going to copy my sinful habits, my sinful behavior, my attitudes, my speech. You go visit somebody's house, there's an 8-year-old boy or girl, let's be gender equal, yeah? So there's an 8-year-old child who uses terrible words and treats the mother totally disrespectfully and takes the name of the Lord in vain and kicks the dog. And when you see that child's dad, you know where he got it from. Yeah? Who's responsible for that? Who's responsible for that sin? Well, the answer is both. Woe to the one who leads the little one astray, but woe to the little one as well, yeah? He copies his dad because he's sinful, because he's born in Adam. We like to blame other people, yeah? We've talked about that with homosexuality. God made me like this. Well, even if you were born like it, it doesn't mean that you are therefore free to do it. We are born selfish, we are born greedy, and that is not an excuse for indulging in those things. Some people say, but I cannot help doing this thing. I cannot stop sinning. That's true, but it's not an excuse. It's an admission of guilt, isn't it? You are caught in some sin and you find, I just keep losing my temper all the time, and I lose my temper so easily. It's just the way I am. Yes, because by nature we are sinners. The problem is not that we do a few sinful things. The problem is that our whole beings are sinful. That's the problem. Somebody read, please, Isaiah 52:13. No, Isaiah 53, 4 to 6. Isaiah 53, 4 to 6, and then we're going to read 3 pages from here. Can you pass the book around, please? If you do not have a copy of this book, you can keep this as a gift. If you do have a copy of the book, you can either give it me back or you can give it as a free gift to somebody else, yeah? So we're going to read Isaiah 53, verses 4 to 6. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, can you give them out?
I read.
Yeah, go on, you read, yeah. Isaiah 53, 4 to 6.
Surely he has borne our griefs and carried our sorrows. Yet we esteemed him stricken, smitten by God and afflicted. But he was wounded for our transgressions. He was bruised for our iniquities. Upon him was the chastisement that made us whole, and with his stripes we are healed. All we are like sheep have gone astray. We have turned everyone to his own way, and the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all.
Good. Isaiah 53 is part of one of the famous servant songs of Isaiah. There's 4 songs, servant songs of Isaiah. The most famous one is this fourth one, Isaiah 52:13 to Isaiah 53:12. And in this book that I've just given you, the man is expounding over 4 sermons, these servant songs. If you turn to page 84 in the book, can I borrow a book, please? And you then. Okay, thank you. Okay, please, 84 to 6. But we're explaining Isaiah 53, verses 4 to 6. Surely he took our infirmities, he carried our sorrows, yet we consider him stricken by God, smitten by him, afflicted. He was pierced for our transgressions, he was crushed for our iniquities. You see those words for sin, transgressions, iniquities. The punishment that brought us peace was upon him. By his wounds we are healed. We all, like sheep, have gone astray. Another word for sin. Each of us turned to his own way, and the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. The servant, what he achieved, halfway down page 84, yeah? Halfway down page 84. This is a great emphasis. This is a great emphasis in these verses. All that he suffered in life and in death was for us. You see how the words we, us, our pound through these verses like a drum beat. Our infirmities, our sorrows, our transgressions, our iniquities, our peace. We are healed. We have gone astray. Each of us, the iniquity of us all. Notice the 4 ways in which sin is viewed in verse 5. The first word that is used is the word transgressions. He was pierced for our transgressions. The word transgress in English means to cross a line, to cross a boundary, and the Hebrew word has the same sort of force. It means the specific ways in which we have crossed God's law, our particular sinful acts and words and thoughts, the sins of which we can say, I did such and such a thing on such a day at such a time. I broke God's law. He was pierced for our transgressions. We have broken God's commandments in specific, particular ways. Well then, his body must be pierced through by particular agonizing wounds. His feet, his hands, his head, his side, his heart. The open wounds in the body of Jesus declare to the world what my sins deserve at the hands of God. But there is more. The second word that Isaiah uses to describe sin, the word iniquities. He was crushed for our iniquities. And this goes deeper. It goes beyond individual acts of sin. The word means all the sinful traits, characteristics, all that is perverse and rotten in me. The problem is not just that I have done selfish deeds, but that I am a selfish man. It is not just that I have said proud things, it is that I am a proud man. It's not just that I have had lustful thoughts, it is that lust is part of my very character. These are our iniquities, not just what we have done, but the sick, ugly, twisted things that are part of us, that are there all the time. The problem is not just what I have done, but what I am. A greedy, proud, selfish, self-centered, deceitful person. There are sins of character that go to the very root of our being. The Bible calls them our iniquities. All that is perverse and shameful in us. And we are told here that he was crushed for our iniquities. It is not enough that he should be pierced with specific wounds. His whole being must be crushed. He must be utterly crushed, a broken, shattered ruin of what was once a man. His body must be turned into a mangled pulp of bleeding flesh. His mind must be shattered by a level of pain beyond imagination. His heart must be broken by an agony of despair beyond words. He must be crushed. because that is what deserves to happen to a man like me, a man so twisted and distorted by pride and greed and deceit. He is not only being punished for what I have done, he is being punished for all that I am. And that means he must be crushed, smashed under the weight of the infinite anger of God. And then the third way we look at sin, in the second half of verse 5, the punishment that brought us peace was upon him. And you see what lies behind that word peace. There is the suggestion that we were at war with God. The problem of sin is not just not just that I have done specific wrong things. It is not even just that I have a twisted, perverted heart. It is that I have rebelled against God, that I have wickedly declared war against him, and that he has rightly declared war against me. He has sworn to punish my rebellion. And so we are told here that the servant was punished for our rebellion. He was punished to restore us to peace with God. Calvary is punishing. It is the eternal and infinite God pouring out his infinite anger against this one helpless man. It is God treating the obedient one as the ultimate rebel. All the fury of God against man's rebellion, man's ingratitude, man's idolatry, it blazes out against this one fragile human being, Jesus. That is the meaning of Calvary. Not just a man pierced by nails and spears and thorns, not just a man broken by sorrow, but a man smashed by the hammer of God's anger, a man driven into the outer darkness, a man scorched and gutted by the holy hatred of God against sin. He was punished, and his punishment was God's response to human rebellion. And then the fourth way we are to view sin, you'll find in the last line of verse 5, and by his wounds we are healed. The picture here is one of sickness, and I believe that it is used here to remind us of all the destructive effects of sin here in this world, all the things sin has brought upon us: physical sickness, pain, old age, death, and also mental illness, tragedy, broken relationships. You look at mankind and you see that mankind is sick in all these ways. And the servant dies for our healing. He dies to deliver us from all these things. Even here in this world, in some measure, to some degree, believers may find healing. Broken minds, in some measure, can be mended. Broken families can be healed. Sorrows can be soothed. Even here in this world, we can say, by his stripes we are healed. And one day we shall live in a world where there will be no more death or mourning or crying or pain, and that world has been won for us by the suffering of the servant. One day we will be whole men and women. Our decaying bodies, our damaged personalities will all be healed, and it will be all because of the Lord Jesus and his death for us. Let's pray. Father, we just thank you for your Son and his death for us. Amen.